now for the Shop Report with
Barbershop Jay.
What up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shop Report. I'm Barbershop Jay. I'll be your host for the day. Here's what's happening. If you're up and around, you're out and about, and you want to give us a shout, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. Once again, the number to call is area code 267-687-0026. And as always, we'd like to remind you all out there that the Shop Report is now being powered by none other than the fine folks over at Rocket Digital Media. It's the one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs. You can look them up on Facebook at RDM Detroit. That's at RDM Detroit. Or you can go to their website, rocketdigital.net, ROCKIT digital.net, and tell them BSJ sent you. Joining us on the P program today is none other than my cap from up north, Joey James, a.k.a. Double J. Tell the people what you say.
More official than a referee with a whistle.
That was the line you used last week. You got to come up with some new material. Just wanted to let everybody out there know that Brother Rich is running a little bit behind today. Actually, he's running a lot behind today, but it's no worries here. The man is on a flight going from somewhere to here, wherever here is, and we pray that he makes it to his destination safely so that he could join us. He sent me a text saying that he would be behind, and he'd join whenever he touched down or whenever he got a chance. So Brother Rich should be joining us shortly. And Gully, too, I'm trying to find out, my man from the CLM bus, if he was going to join us as well on the show today. But alas, right now, my dear good peoples, you have Barbershop J and Double J here to take it all the way. I know it didn't make sense, but it's just the first thing that came to mind. So anywho, yeah, until we get these other two characters on the line here, Double J, how's the weekend going? Excuse me, and the fact that the Browns are in the playoffs, how does that make you feel? You don't have your buddy here, to do his facts. But how does that make you feel now that the Browns are in the playoffs?
Well, let's take it for what it's worth. The streak is over, and it's no longer this conversation of ancient history and disappointments. However, we could very well be facing another disappointment, but instead the direction of anger wouldn't be at someone like John Elway. It would be at someone like Roger Goodell.
Yeah, I don't think that they could postpone that game if that's what you're driving at. And here's something interesting as well, if I can find it here. Bear with me for a minute. I thought this was very, 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 very interesting. There are how many Browns players and coaches combined who are out for this game due to COVID? Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. I got the list here. Here we go. The current list, and this is per, I don't know who Cyrus is, but per Cyrus, the current list of Browns players out with COVID. Now, this wasn't necessarily a topic for today, even not literally. We were talking about of course, getting ready to talk about the NFL playoffs upcoming here. But the list of players that are on COVID, as far as the Browns are concerned, I thought it would just be interesting to mention this, if you would. But the current list of Browns players with COVID: B.J. Goodson, Malcolm Smith, Andrews Ndejo, Harrison Bryant, Denzel Ward, Kevin Johnson, Joel Bitonio, Javon Patterson, Kadero Hodge, Bill Callahan, Chad O'Shea, Jeff Howard, Drew Petzing, Petzing, and Kevin Stefanski. And according to the NFL, that's not an outbreak. What do you say to that, Double J?
Well, let's take that for what it's worth for a moment. You're not talking about just, one or two starters. We would have to pull it up to see where Tennessee was earlier this season when I believe that number was 23 when it hit its peak. However, by the time the game was initially moved, the numbers couldn't have been too far from where we're at right now. I believe the issue that I personally have with this at this point is, I get it. If you didn't want to do it with Denver, just to simply get the games in, they were out of playoff contention. They were playing someone that I believe at the time it really had no impact on where they were going to be seeding-wise within the playoffs as well. So, from a business standpoint, you play that game. I understand this is the playoffs, and you have, certain agreements in place. However, the product ultimately. We talk about that often, especially in other sports, specifically the Today BA. But just, you don't pull the cake out of the oven too early just for the sake of having something plated. And if Roger Goodell could channel any kind of Gordon Ramsay energy, he would make the right decision and move this game back. By doing so, again, by a day, potentially, could be the difference in some cases.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, even if they move it back by a day. Before you go into that, let me just let the people out there know. We are discussing today, of course, the NFL playoffs, what I'm calling Dueces Wild. We'll go over the teams that are in it for this wild card weekend and how they might fare or not fare, or should there be an asterisk by the outcomes, of course, due to COVID, and who, of course, might be moving forward, so on and so forth. And we also have Take Your Pick. As I said, I'd like to start adding that to the weekly shows, the Take Your Pick segments, if you would. And in this edition of Take Your Pick, it is Battle of the Middleweights, and that is Marvin Hagler versus, or should I say, Carlos Monxon. We'll get to all of that a little bit later on. But why would back to this NFL in the COVID thing with the Browns or whatnot? Why would it, if they moved it back a day? I don't understand. If they have COVID, how could moving it back one day make that big of a difference, or make it where some guys could participate or not participate, so on and so forth? That sounded like you were alluding to. Excuse me.
Yeah, and again, the reason for it is not only is it an extra preparation day. If I may have alluded to last week, or I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago, when Cleveland played the Jets and had a similar set of circumstances when this first began, that entire trip was a disaster. They got in late. They had to run their walkthrough in the, I believe, one of the rooms within the hotel. So it was very bass-awkward. And because of that, the extra day of preparation and walking through the motions, because, again, we're not talking about one or two guys. We're talking about a handful, a litter of starters that are going to be out where, again, anything that you can do to get a somewhat of a rhythm is going to be beneficial, especially from, even the preparation standpoint from the coaching staff. Because, again, generally we always have this next man up philosophy, and you hear it more times in football than you do in any other sport. This is a gut punch. You made it this far to only have the one elephant in the room, start going off right when it matters the most. The frustrating part that I have with all of it is that the league went the route that they did earlier in the season, and now they've backed off of it. We're talking about a guard, a receiver, defensive back, and the tight end coach. To my understanding, the special teams coach is going to be the interim head coach for this.
Yeah,
I mean, this is worse than when a firing takes place, in my opinion.
Yeah, I heard that too. I'm not too sure about the special teams guy, but I did hear that. I haven't read it anywhere. I just find it interesting. I don't know, how they'll be able to move games back or whatnot, but what I'm hearing, and I don't know this to be true one way or another, and I don't like to discuss or make a case based off of speculation, but
don't you do it. I know where you're going.
Yeah,
Don't you do it.
No, I'm going. I have to. Again, I'm not saying this to be true. I'm just putting it out here, just saying that if something comes down the line, okay, we already didn't, it's on wax, so to speak. Please don't let me find out. Don't let me find out that there was some sort of gathering that took place at some point prior to this sudden rash of positives. Because that's going to be a whole nother show for a whole nother day. And I only say that because I don't know this to be fact. Let me reiterate that's what happened. But I am saying this. With all the COVID cases in the NFL this year, there's been one common denominator. Somebody was doing something they had no business doing. Somebody was doing something they had no business doing, especially in the case of the guy who is hired, or I don't even know if he's still employed, by the Ravens. He knowingly had it and then went into the facility. Am I saying this is what happened in the case of the Browns? Absolutely not. No, I'm not. But I am saying this. You got to give me some kind of answer as to what in the world. How did they go? I mean, at the beginning of the season, the Browns were one of the few teams who were managing this thing. And then all of a sudden, I mean, it was no gradual increase or nothing. I mean, they went from 1 or 2 cases to like everybody. Come on now. And this is now, and the protocols had already been put in place. They'd already been put in place. So if you're adhering to the protocols, I mean, to some degree, the number of cases here in the last 13 seconds for the Cleveland Browns, as opposed to 8, 9, 10 weeks ago, it's just something just don't smell right. We got a caller here on the line early on in the show. I appreciate that. It says anonymous, though. So can you tell us your name and where you're calling from? Hello?
This is Double J.
Oh, wow. That's you. Okay, so you hung up and called right back. Okay, got you. Why is it showing up as anonymous on my screen? Whoa, okay. God, wow. Oh, you calling from the Skype now?
I am. So hopefully the audio is nice and crisp now.
Yeah, well, it wasn't bad on the first go round, but yeah, okay, I got you. It's still, you're still coming through loud and clear. Actually, it is a little bit more precise, if you would. We got my man from the CO on bus, D Gully, joining us. What's the deal, son? Holla at your boy.
Hey, how you guys doing? Great to be in your presence again. Ready to get after it, man.
Yeah, Brother Richard is not with us.
Oh, boy. Here comes the wagons, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to let Gully have his minute.
You know what, Double J? You know what, Double J? Nah, don't even start with me, Double J. Nah, I ain't even say nothing. I said I was great. I was glad to be with you guys, and here you go. You just didn't. You just snapped that jab just right at me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I had my guards up this time.
Exactly.
I'm ready. I've been watching my Floyd Mayweather. Actually, I've been watching my Sugar Ray and Sweet Pea. So I've got some defense, and I got phenomenal offense. You just get ready. You too, Brother Rich. I love you like a brother, but you know what? You can get it too.
He not here right now, Gully. Yeah,
well, we thought he would have got here faster then, huh?
Yeah,
he's talking about Floyd Mayweather. Huh?
Yeah, he's not here right now. He texted me a little earlier and said that something about his flight was delayed or something or another. So he's flying from somewhere to somewhere else, hopefully home. And he said when he gets situated, of course, he'll be calling in. So give him a minute. I'm sure he'll be joining us before it's all said and done. If not, it's enough of us here to as they say, the show must go on. But, yeah, we were talking right quick before we got into some of this wild card weekend upcoming. We were talking about the Browns and their sudden rash of COVID cases. Now, if you want me to, I'll go through the list again of the folks who, bear with me, of the folks who had, no, I can't find it here. Oh, darn. Oh, yeah. Of the folks
while you're looking for it, we'll go with Antonio.
What happened? Yeah, I got it here. Yeah, I got it here. BJ Good. This is the current list of Browns on the COVID list. Gully, BJ Goodson, Malcolm Smith, Andrews and Deho, Harrison Bryant, Denzel Ward, Kevin Johnson, Joel Bitonio, Javon Patterson, Kadero Hodge, Bill Callahan, Chad O'Shea, Jeff Howard, Drew Petzing, Petzing, and Kevin Stefanski. And they're saying this is not an outbreak according to the NFL. Now, before you give your answer, Gully, I just wanted to point out, and we don't do speculation here, so I'm not doing the hyperbole and guessing, and I'm not making a claim based off of something that really can't be substantiated. What I am saying is this. You got to help me out. 1 + 1 ain't adding up to 2 in this case. We've seen the NFL have a few teams in the NFL this year deal with the COVID cases. And like I just mentioned the Double J, it seems like the one common denominator amongst all of the cases, even though there have not been a whole bunch of cases in the NFL, is that somebody was doing something they had no business doing. Okay? Can we agree on that right there? And then second, if you look more so in particular at the Browns, the first 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season, they may have had a case or two or something, I'm not sure. But whatever it was is not what it is now. It went from 1, and I'm just using this as an example, just picking a number, went from 1 to 100,000 in less than 10 seconds. I'm just saying, man, I pray, man, it don't come out after the fact, man, that there was some sort of gathering. Because I still can't wrap my mind around the guy for the Ravens who knowingly had COVID and then walked his behind into the facility. And then you saw what happened to them. Everybody he came in contact with, how many guys all of a sudden in their facility, they broke the news the next day talking about he got it, this guy got it, that guy got it. And they traced it back to the staffer who went in there in the building, knowing he had no business going into the building. But anyway, your thoughts on this sudden rash of positives for the Cleveland Browns in regards to COVID and how that might affect the game Sunday, or if it will be a game Sunday.
A pandemic or a world event is the only excuse for one team, any team, in any competitive sport, in any form of entertainment or anything. A world event such as a pandemic would be the only excuse for why you should not have any expectations of that team being who they are, performing who they are, whatever else. So if the Browns are to win on Sunday, that's a hell of a job to them. That's a testament to the team that has been built. If they don't win, given these circumstances, then how can you fault that? This isn't the same old. I was saying right now, this certainly isn't the same old Browns. And if they were not to win, if they were to get embarrassed, if you will, given the lack of depth that they have based on the pandemic, this isn't a case of the same old Browns. However, let's move sports aside for a moment, because I'm beyond frustrated at why we continue to even have the game in the first place if every time we are going to handle an occurrence of this virus as if it's a level 5 catastrophe. If it is a level 5 catastrophe, then we should be watching highlights of the best of for the entire duration of this pandemic until they can say with 100% certainty they got it under control.
Exactly.
If not, there is no such thing. There should be no such thing as a coronavirus protocol, because either it is serious or it ain't. The absence of light is darkness. The absence of darkness is light. It is a binary thing. This isn't a degree of
right.
Because see, here's what I'm saying by that is they're handling it with while it's a degree of severity when it's time for the NFL to make money, getting revenue or whatnot. Okay, when you have empty stadiums, they are still playing sports because they're a TV contract. But then it's binary when those said individuals come remotely in contact with someone with this coronavirus. That, despite the severity, knowing that I've known personally people who let's say I'm third person removed from people who have actually died. You know, so I have people that have relatives that have funerals because of it. Okay, despite the severity, and I'm not downplaying that, it's still not the level of sickness and of death that would promote closing things down. Or if you decide that it is, then close everything. The Browns should not have this level of COVID coronavirus protocol if the disease, if the virus is as serious as it should be taken. That's why I'm beyond frustrated with it, because it affected this team, if no other team, severely.
Well, it did for the Ravens and it did for the Titans. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Colts had an issue too. I could be wrong, but I believe it was the Colts. But at the same time, though,
here's the thing too. Here's the thing. The timing is everything. The issue happened for them where it was early enough in the season that if things got together, they still had their potential, right? You're in the playoffs. This is when it's done in the NFL. This is
right, but what you're saying, though, speaks to
the worst time for something like this happen.
Yeah, but what you're saying, the point that you're making, either is real or it ain't real, and you're going to approach it as such. That speaks to regardless of what point in the season things took place. Because remember, there were a few other players who at the time, we're talking about 6 or 7 weeks ago, who had mentioned, I forget what the player's name was and what team he played for. If anybody out there want to help me out, I appreciate it. Or not, just go look it up because it's on record. But the guy basically said, what I don't get is, in meetings, we got to sit 6 feet apart. We got to social distance. We got to, adhere to the what the virus is and what it can do and the potentials and so on and so forth. He said, but on the field, I'm dapping dudes up. I got my helmet off. They got their helmet off. So make it make sense. So to your point, that to me is applicable in the 5th week of the season, before the season, and at this point in the season. It's just unfortunate for all of them, really. But like you said, the timing for it to be the Browns, and this being the Browns' first playoff appearance since, Otto Graham wore wooden cleats and all that whole storyline that goes along with that. And I get it because I was a part of it. But for some reason or another, man, it just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't. Something is just not adding up. It's just not adding up to me. But we'll see as this whole thing moves forward in the playoffs. They are here. But and one of the questions I asked in the description for tonight's show was, do we put an asterisk by whoever wins and whoever loses? Double J?
As much as I would love to say yes, we should, the reason why we shouldn't is because whomever the victor is went through the same circumstances. Now, to your point a moment ago, questioning regardless if it was a staffer or a player, coach, whomever may be deemed patient zero that may have stepped outside the line or blurred the line, and it led to this result. What it implies, if the victor didn't do that, it's no fault of their own. This would be very vastly different if it was simply your soft tissue injury riddled season and the injury bug bit every playoff team but one, and it was clearly evident that was the case. And you have a bunch of practice squad players playing for all of the eligible teams except for one. That's just simply not the case here. I mean, we've seen it with the NBA in the bubble. We're seeing it in globally with soccer. People are persevering, and those that are breaking rules are being exposed for breaking those rules. We've seen it a handful of times, not only in the NFL specifically, but certainly in European soccer. And because of that, I can't give someone a steroid asterisk type of stain on their title run.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I'm with you on everything you said, but I want to throw this in. And I'm not picking on the Browns or anybody else. It could be whatever team. Let's say this team that's in the playoffs is out 20 7% of whoever they would normally have, whether it's players, coaches, or whatnot. And quiet as it's kept, but I'm not one to belabor the point. I think that Clemson not having their offensive coordinator, who right before game against Ohio State was said to have had COVID or was out due to COVID stipulations or whatever the case may be, I think that made a difference. You go into a game of this magnitude, of any magnitude, without a third of who you normally would have, win or lose. I mean, I guess if the game is going to be played, somebody got to win, somebody got to lose. But I'm not looking at it the same as I would if you had everybody. And I mentioned this before as an analogy of some sorts. You know, we saw the movie Gladiator when the emperor wanted to make it appear to the people that he had defeated Maximus, but he went down in the whatever the tunnels was and stuck him with stuck him in his lung with the knife and then put his armor over him. You know what I mean? It's not, everything is not what it appears to be. You know what I mean? So if he had won, that's how you're going to get your victory. Nobody knows, though, that you came down and you stuck me, so I was at a disadvantage. This is COVID we talking about here. This thing done swept through the nation, swept through the world, man, and it didn't cause severe, it's worse than Sherman's March. And if you all are not familiar, whoever out there not familiar with Sherman's March, is during the Civil War time. Look up Sherman's March, and they talk about what he left in his wake. That's what COVID is doing. I'm gonna watch it, of course, but I think to Gully's point, should the Browns not win against the Steelers or any other team that doesn't, that was affected by it. Now, if you want one of those teams affected by it and you still got all your pieces and parts, then I'll have to look at it, I can look at it more fairly, if you would. But in the case of the Browns in particular, man, my gosh, I just went through the list of people or the list of folks that they don't have. If they do pull that game off, you got to tip your hat. You got to tip your hat to everybody. And matter of fact, in that instance, you don't even wait till the game is over. If you got the game in hand, you give Baker that fifth-year option right out the gate. But let's get to some of this playoff action, man. Good stuff, by the way. Gully, did you want to add something at the end there or no?
No, you asked about, whether it should be an asterisk. And I was thinking about this, even as I heard Double J and both you Barbershop, whether it should or shouldn't be. And I was inclined, actually, to a degree, Double J, you almost sold me on the idea that it shouldn't be an asterisk. But the only reason why I think the asterisk remains is when you dealing with injuries, could be injuries, or injuries, then that player has fate would have it. That injury did change the trajectory of the season, but there are enough of your teammates, if we're talking about a team sport, there's enough of your team there that should be, if they're truly champion worthy, should be able to rally around it, right? It's supposed to be next man up. That's definitive of the Steelers culture, if nothing else. But we're talking about a case of widespread healthy scratching. That changes the landscape of everything. When we talk about healthy scratching, we're talking about players that are excused from the game because of protocol. It's almost like they're being suspended for having not done something. And that changes the landscape of everything. You tell me I'm healthy, but I just can't get out there on the field and expect us to be able to say, that is the metaphor for putting your armor on and stabbing somebody. They're healthy. They're sitting right there, but they can't play. That's why I think the asterisk may unfortunately have to remain. And the fact that it's so debatable goes back to my point in the end. If you're healthy and they're scratched and you can't really play because of this, should we really be doing this at all?
Yeah, we had that question on a few shows back, actually. We've been asking that question. And the more and more that this thing hits, the more and more it's looking like they should have never even had the season. But again, we are here where we at, and the playoffs, as they say, must go on, I guess. So starting this Saturday, that's right, January 9th, 2021, Happy New Year, or should I say Happy You Near or New York. out there to all them folks who just now getting into this new year thing. We're going to start with the AFC wild card, or should I say Dueces Wild, the playoff game. And up first, I'm so not happy that Brother Richard was not here to get his head cracked on this one. The Colts at the Bills. Gully, we'll start with you, seeing how you and your squad circled the wagons on this one. It's 105 Eastern time, start time, or 105 start time. Who you got? And can you give me a take, but one that's unbiased?
I never listen. I just, you call somebody something so much, either they're gonna either run from it or embrace it. You know what I mean? Y'all call me the Bills fan. The two guys there, Brother Rich. I wish he was here. Yeah, I'm looking for hopefully safe travels and all that stuff. He's really got to be all I want to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, go Buffalo. Go Buffalo. Go. I expect Buffalo to validate at least this week they'll validate the record that they've had. I think the test from Indianapolis will be a surprise, but I expect Buffalo, with everything they've got going for them this week, to go ahead and advance to the divisional. And do it, even though the game might be close, but they'll do it convincingly. I don't think they're going to escape. They're going to win that game for sure.
Yeah, two things that stand out to me. One, I've heard people, although they get some mention the Bills, still doubt them as to whether or not they're even playoff worthy, and they were the second seed. Imagine that. In other words, they in it, but they not gonna get it done. They can't get it done. They firing on all cylinders right now. And the whole adage, if I'm not mistaken, is what? When you're going into a playoff or a round robin, whoever's playing their best going in, right? You want to be playing your best football. We've heard it before, quote unquote. You want to be playing your best football when you're going into. Well, they playing about as well as anybody in the whole 14-team tournament. All right. And I wouldn't put them to the side. I'm not going to jump out the plane at 50,000 feet and say they'll win it all and win the Super Bowl and they're going to be, and such going to be the MVP and such going to be the comeback player of the year and yada, yada, yada and all that kind of stuff. I'm not doing all of that. But I'm not taking them lightly. And as far as the Colts are concerned, early on in the season, it was their defense that was their calling card. Now it turned around and looked like it's Phillip Rivers. And where's the defense at for the Colts? But going into Buffalo, I just don't see. I see the Bills. But again, it's any given Sunday. But if you ask me, 1 + 1 = 2, I'm taking the Bills in a romp, actually, tell you the truth. Because that Colts defense the last few weeks has been suspect and susceptible. Double J, who you got? AFC wild card round. Colts at the Bills.
Well, as they say, you're not supposed to put the cart above the horse or in front of the horse. But in this case, I'm going to have to go with you guys. So here's the thing. What makes this matchup intriguing is, as you just pointed out a moment ago, Phillip Rivers and the Colts offensively have really hit their stride in the last 5 games. 3 of which I believe they've gone over 100 yards rushing. We knew early on in the season that defensively, especially with the run defense, they were very disciplined, very good. However, this is an unfortunate case of matchup. And if you look at Buffalo's run, just rushing in general, it's not stellar. It's not anything that is really their calling card. However, if you look at Indy's weakness defensively, it is when it comes to passing. And that's where, Josh Allen is going to be able to kind of feed, whether it's Cole Beasley, of course, Stephon Diggs, and pretty much everyone, if they opt to go 5 wide, can absolutely have a great day. That's where, I could make the case that if Indy can spread them out and control the ball, it can make things a little bit closer. But there's a reason Vegas has this line at 7 right now in favor of the Bills. I have a hard time going against that myself, despite the offensive explosion in these last few weeks for the Colts.
Yeah, it might be 7 right now, but today is what, Tuesday? Come Saturday, that line going to be a whole lot closer. 3.5 maybe. It should be. If it's still at 7 come Saturday, then why even let the Colts in? They should have just put Notre Dame in. On the NFC side, at 4:40, same day, Saturday, January 9th, of course, because, of course, the Saturday and Sunday's games, so we'll get to all of them. The Rams are at the Seahawks. Double J will stay with you. 4:40 Eastern time, start time. The Rams at the Seahawks. Believe it or not, this is a toss-up for me. And the Rams got about, 35,000 players out themselves. I think all 3 of their starting running backs are out, I think. And Goff dislocated or messed his thumb up or something or another. But still, the Seahawks, man, the way they've been playing as of late. The defense got a little bit better, but it seems like the offense has tailed off somewhat. So I don't know, man. Even though they're playing at home, I'm not so sure that the Seahawks got that 12th man going like they did once when Marshawn Lynch was in the backfield. But my bad, Double J. Who you got in this one? Rams at the Seahawks at the 4:40 start time.
Well, this is where you brought it up at full strength. This is very much a pick 'em. Early in the season, I think all of us would have went with Seattle. As I kind of predicted, they would come back down to earth. They've been shaky. They lost, dropped the game to San Francisco. No different than the Rams. But the question really comes down to Jared Goff and in his health. If he's available, and to my understanding here, as we're live, there's still some uncertainty around that possibility. You pair that with the potential of Aaron Donald and David Edwards also not being available, and it's going to be Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. Because while we're talking about injuries, the Seahawks are getting Carlos Hyde back. So they're still figuring
I was just getting ready to mention that. They're running game.
Rashad
Okay.
Penny.
I didn't know they were getting Carlos Hyde back. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So, you do that, and I do want to throw in this last point regarding the last game. Doc said he is also with Buffalo because of that pairing of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. Doc, what's up, man? I hope you out there listening. My man DOC out there, baby. Fellas, before we go on, before we come to you, I got a little bit of breaking news, I guess, somewhat. Did you all know, according to TMZ.com, Dr. Dre suffers a brain aneurysm and is in the ICU in L.A.? Did you all know that?
No.
Yeah.
Definitely prayers up to him.
Yeah, this just...
I didn't know that at all. Wow.
Yeah, this just came across my ticker, so to speak. But, Gully, all right, on you, man. Rams and Seahawks, who you got in this one?
This happened last season, and I couldn't figure it out. Last season with the Patriots, and Tom Brady, when they thought Tom Brady was to be written off, they were the most off the written 12-4 team I had ever seen. The Seahawks this year are the second most off written 12-4 team I've ever experienced. There's no reason.
You said 12-14 team, huh? Okay, I got you.
Yeah, 12-14. Yeah, they're being talked about as if they are 12-14, but they're 12-4. They're a 12-4 team.
Okay.
I don't. This is the playoffs. This is the postseason. This is, I think, a year of redemption. I think the Seahawks have now finally realized a true identity post the Legion of Boom. And now this is the first real test, albeit a game one, with the LA Rams. I don't expect anything but a Seahawks victory. I don't think that they're going to – I'd be shocked if what they call the yips, a case of players, star coaches or whatever, somehow forgetting to do the things that they were successful at. I think this is the team, the Seahawks, who get often accused of that, but I don't think it's described as such in the media or the press. They just seem to come up short. But I don't think a case of the yips is going to affect Seahawks. Is DK Metcalf playing?
Yes, from my understanding, he's playing.
Okay. Is there a solution? Is there a solution, or do you think that the Rams have a game plan to keep him in contain? And does that game plan
Jalen Ramsey
not only keep him to? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey done shut down just about everybody. Jalen Ramsey shut down Jerry Rice, and he wasn't even born yet. Jalen Ramsey wasn't. That's how good a job he been doing.
So you say Jalen Ramsey is better than Revis Island?
No.
In his prime?
No, I didn't say that at all. I'm saying.
Okay. I should have asked as a question.
Yeah.
If you think he's less than Revis Island, then DK Metcalf, the young stud that he is, and with the offensive mind of Pete Carroll in that offense, especially getting their running back Carlos Hyde, Buckeyes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I see the Seahawks taking care of business this week and advancing to next week. Now, next week, depending on what happens, don't call me a bandwagoner yet, Double J. I ain't moved to Seattle, okay? But I like Seattle this time.
Yeah,
you would have just had to jump in the passenger seat there with our host. It wouldn't have been that bad.
Oh no, I ride a single seat bicycle, so no room for riders. You seen the sign on the bus, no passengers. I'm not picking nobody up. Thank you very much. Jay Solo is what they called me on that side of town. But this whole deal about DK and Revis and Jalen Ramsey, all I know is, and I like DK Metcalf, all I know is, you look at what Jalen Ramsey done did this season against whoever the top receiver was for the opponents that the Rams played. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey is he on his own island. And when I say own, I mean OWN. He owns his own island because he different. He a different type of dude. He playing like I don't know where he was drafted at, but I'm pretty sure it was in the first round and maybe, I don't know, top 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there, wherever it is. He justifying why he was picked wherever he was picked at. And if he was picked any lower than that, that's shame on whoever for him falling that far, second or third round or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. He's that good as a defensive back. And he can contain DK Metcalf, or at least that's the way it didn't look so far. They contain DK Metcalf. And then, you also got to point out, again, or I'll elaborate on the number of fans that will be in attendance for these games. Now, there may be some, in some cases, there may be some, more allowed than others. I don't know the numbers for each team and home team or whatever, and like the Bills versus the Browns and so on and so forth, or where they're going to be at Heinz Field. But in Seattle's case, that's why I said that 12th man ain't the 12th man no more. So even though the Rams are depleted, the Seahawks are getting people back, as you mentioned, Carlos Hyde or whatnot. Without that 12th man, even though the Rams are down a little bit, man, that might make things a little bit even, Steven. But I, too, picked the Seahawks in this one because Russ. But I got my fingers crossed because Russ kind of disappointed me towards the latter part of the season. And then we have in the 8:15 game, which is the prime time slot, Saturday night, is none other than the Tampa Bay Brady Nears at the Washington football team. Gully. How do you see this one playing out?
Wow. Man, I keep talking about Seattle in their past because I see reflections of it. Remember, Seattle was that team that went 7-9 and beat the defending Super Bowl champs in the first round of the playoffs that following season. Remember that run?
Right. Marshawn Lynch.
Signature run of Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
That was the 7 yes. Ooh, Washington. 7. I mean, your record is your record, but everybody's undefeated in the playoffs until they lose. And the fact that Washington as it turns out, gets to host, I'm torn. I like what I've seen of Brady. I wasn't so quick to dismiss him in his advanced age and with Bruce Arians and with that offense and what that team has come together to do. But this year, I'm sorry, man. I don't know how to pick it. I mean, because we got to move on, I'm just gonna have to say a name. I'm just gonna say it just because of just first mind. My first mind is going to go with Tampa Bay, but that's a hard decision for me to make. It's harder than I think, really.
Yeah. I actually am going to go with Washington. And I'm going to tell you why. First, let me mention the Bucks. Kudos to them for making the playoffs. And I'm a Bruce Arians fan. I like Bruce Arians. But what I don't like is he fell in love with the last name Brady. And initially, if you go back and look at some of the Bucks games this season, the games where they struggled or Tom Brady struggled or whatnot, for the most part, he had him trying to throw the ball all over the yard because he got them Mike Evans and Godwin. He got all them receivers, got all of that. Just fling it. Yeah, you want to go deep. He was in love with the deep ball, Arians was. But you got to understand, like you said, Brady is 43 or 79. Take your pick. It's all the same at this age. Once you get an AARP card, I don't think the age number really matters. But he had to dial it back some. He had to tailor his offense to Brady's skill set at this stage of his career. And then that's when they kind of went on the roll, the Bucks did. Now, you don't count Brady out because he is the linchpin. He is a championship caliber dude. Everybody on that squad is looking at him like, what do we do now? And he that guy like that. But I'm telling you something now, man. How incredible is it for the Washington football team to have the kind of owner that they have and they've been mired in all of the muck that they've been mired in, add in COVID, and for Chase Young to jump off the screen at you and them to win the NFC least, but more importantly, Alex Smith be at the helm of it. If anybody could beat them, it's a combination of them two guys. 'Cause Chase Young is coming. He ain't one of them guys to put it out. He didn't put it out there already. He told him. And then Bruce Arians said, of course, be careful what you ask for. I get that, Bruce. I'm with you on that. And in the other case, but this time, this dude right here, he calling his shot. And we know, don't let him back it up. Because, it's only been a handful of guys in history of any sport that didn't call their shot and then backed it up. That puts you on a different echelon right out the gate. And when he say he coming, I think he coming. He going to be bringing. And, Brady does not like to get off his square. Make him uncomfortable. We didn't see him look, dare I say, average? Just being honest. But I'm going with the Washington Generals football team. Double J, who you got? Bucks at the Washington Generals football team Globetrotter special.
Well, first and foremost, I'm glad that leading into this we have two different picks. I think from a viewership standpoint, this is one that is going to be slept on. It's going to be a lot closer than people think. As you pointed out, there are going to be some fans in the stadium for just about all of the venues. Some of the key things we've talked about, injury or COVID-related for some of these games as a whole, this, when it comes to injuries, Mike Evans is bigger than most. Not only that, is Devin White on the defensive side of the ball. What people have failed to realize is that this Washington team is a very different team with Alex Smith. Now, can he run and do some of the extra things? No. But the same can be said for Brady. And the difference is Alex Smith doesn't have to worry about Chase Young being coming at him full steam ahead. It has been written and told for 15, 16 years now. The way to get to throw off Brady is to get pressure on him. Washington is built for that between Kerrigan, Chase Young, and many others on the defensive side of the ball.
Oh, I forgot I
Not only
forgot
that,
Ryan Kerrigan was still there. Jeez. That dude is underrated. And he had left in, too, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can move him to outside linebacker.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that Bucks O-line, they have their hands full.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the elephant in the room, which is they're playing for a coach that, survived cancer, that was getting IV treatments at halftime to make sure he could continue to coach throughout a game. You have every incentive. On top of the fact that you our host, have already kicked the hornet's nest even more by way of the New York Giants fan base, who are not particularly thrilled with the Eagles and how Washington even got into the playoffs.
Oh, man, please.
So
the Giants
have everything to prove here.
Yeah, but the Giants, I don't like that kind of talk. Yeah, I mean, truthfully speaking, yeah, the Eagles should have played Hurts probably. You give yourself the best chance to win, unless they in it for a draft spot or something. I just don't like losing on purpose. I'm sorry. I don't care how you go about doing it and which way you slice it. I'm just not a fan of that. From player, coaches, management, anybody. I'm just not. So they should have played Jalen Hurts. But at the same time, you can't cry because somebody else didn't help you. Help yourself. You should have won more games. The NFC East was there for the taking all year long. So have a seat. Yeah, what the judge said was true at the end. I get it and all of that, man. But you won 7 games. And you play how many? 16? Stop it. Shh. Have a seat at the kids' table. All right? And get your little slice of turkey with your little ice cream scoop of cranberry sauce. Okay? And in the Sunday's action, which is January 10th, of course, we have the Ravens at the Titans at 1:05 start time. Gully, who you got, Ravens or Titans?
Man.
Oh, my gosh. You
got
a little excited over there, did you?
Rematch from last year.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, rematch from last year.
Who won last year's rematch?
I don't know. You said Ravens and Titans, right?
Right. I said who won last year's rematch?
Last year's match, the Titans surprised a more complete, more balanced Ravens team.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Titans have gotten better than they were last year, and I don't know that the Ravens have matched that same thing. I think we're going to have a repeat of last year.
Do you think
I'm picking the Titans.
Yeah, I'm rolling with the Titans too.
Yep.
No disrespect to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and what they do. That organization. Kudos to Ozzie Newsome, who, by the way, I've heard, don't know how true this is, but I got a couple phone calls from some folks that say, "Hey, man, we heard it here first. Not saying it will or won't go down, but Ozzie's name is being mentioned in connection with the Texans' job. Now, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's all I'm saying." But I, again, don't know how true that is, whether he would take it or not. I just know his name is being mentioned in connection with the Texans. But the Ravens are one-dimensional. They have an identity. It's their run game. I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson can't pass or none of that. He can. But I'm telling you, if I'm the defensive coordinator, if I'm the opposition playing them, then guess what? If we got to put 55 in the box, he gonna have to beat us with his arm. I'm talking about turn the field over type stuff. If we got to punt, try to get it down inside the 10. Make his have to go 90 yards every time, or as often as you can in that game. Make however many drives they get, make them have to be 90 something odd yards to go get 7s. But you spying him in particular on that run game. I mean, they do it, and they do it well, running the ball that they do. But they run the ball. If I had to say, I don't know, would you call it no, you wouldn't call it a ratio. I say when it comes to running the ball, that's like 90%. They 9 times out of 10 with that. When it comes to passing the ball, it's less than 5 out of 10. I'll take my chances. You're going to have to beat me with that arm, baby. But I'm picking the Titans, too. But then again, we've seen the Titans. Well, this is the playoffs, so we'll see. We'll see if they come to, what mindset that they come with, because sometimes they lose games and they be head scratchers. And it be self-inflicted wounds where they typically, a Vrabel team don't make the kind of mistakes. So I don't know if it's human nature or what, but we'll see which Titans team shows up. But if the real Tennessee Titans, if they would please stand up, I think they win this one. By 2 touchdowns, actually, or at least 10, double digits. Double J, what say you? Ravens or Titans?
Well, what makes this particular matchup interesting is what you brought up. But we're beginning to see the Lamar Jackson of old. If you recall, even going into the Cleveland game, we hadn't really seen that guy all year. There was the rumors of kind of the hamstring injury. But of late, he's kind of reemerged and burst onto the scene. What is little known right now is that the Titans' pass rush is virtually non-existent. And on top of that, to kind of add insult to injury, they're going to likely be without their starting defensive tackle. If Baltimore can establish the run and continue to allow that kind of peak Lamar Jackson to do what he does best and not do what Tennessee has done in years past, which is control the clock and the tempo, this is Baltimore's game to lose. And in truth, this is really, if Baltimore's going to make any kind of run, this is who you want to play first. So I'm actually going to go Baltimore here because I believe what ultimately Kansas City did last year is what's going to take place in this round. And it's going to rely squarely on the shoulders of Ryan Tannehill, and they're going to take it out of Derrick Henry's hand, and Harbaugh's going to coach him up. Speaking
of Derrick Henry, somebody put a Facebook post up earlier. This dude done had 2,000 yards at every level of football, and in high school, once had. Matter of fact, if I was looking at it correctly, his freshman year had 4,000 rushing yards. Man, I hope the Ravens is ready to tackle. That's all I'm trying to tell you. This dude done had 2,000 yards on every level. And I'm not talking about just barely 2,000 yards, not saying barely, like 2,000 yards in and of itself is not an amazing feat, because it is. But I'm not talking like 2001. I'm talking about some 2000 and some serious change. Man, Derrick Henry getting ready to go. He getting ready to, okay. He getting ready to. I just the Ravens, the way they beat the Browns at 47-42, just I don't know, a better defensive effort. The Ravens lose by 14. To me, I mean, they put up points, but a lot of the points. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a talented dude. But like I said, man, you got to make me. And if the one guy who's had off the Belichick tree who's had some success more so than anybody else that comes to mind right now, I don't know where Josh McDaniels might fit in and all of that, but it is Mike Vrabel. But again, we've seen the Titans have some head scratchers, so you really kind of, I wouldn't bet on them, but at home, I want to see Vrabel pull a Bill Belichick. Take that run game away. The one thing that they like to do. That's what Bill is known for. Whatever you do best, he's going to take that away, and then you're going to have to beat me with the rest. And if that's what Vrabel's approach is, then I'm picking the Titans by 10 at least. Then on the NFC side, on Sunday's game as well, is the Bears at the Saints. Gully, who you got in that one? Oh, and that's the 4:40 game, by the way.
When the Saints go marching in. When the Saints go marching in,
so
they
come
to play and they come to win. I just made that up myself. I'm picking the Saints, for sure. Absolutely. There's no reason why,
I got you. So you made that up by yourself. So you Louis Armstrong. Oh, the Saints. Oh, okay. Next question. Next question. You picking the Saints. Double J, who you got? Bears at the Saints.
Yeah, well, the Saints are obviously going to be the overwhelming favorite here. The interesting part was with the possibility still that Alvin Kamara is unavailable. They will see the return of Michael Thomas. So that's an upgrade we've yet to see. We have not seen the peak Saints yet. We've yet to see them at full strength other than a quarter and a half, really, of football in week 1 against Tampa. So it'll be really interesting to see further in these playoffs with all of them back at full strength. The Bears are a sneaky team because, again, they appear to always be offensively handicapped, but defensively they find themselves to remain in games.
You know what?
If this game were in Chicago, I would really make the case for Chicago to be able to do what they did in 2006. Unfortunately, I believe the Saints have too much on the offensive side of the ball.
Yes, the Saints do have a lot, even with Alvin Kamara not playing possibly or not playing. But I'm going to say this. I'm picking the Bears. There's one thing about the Saints that concerns me, and it's Drew Brees and those broken ribs. I get it. Modern medicine is a wonderful thing now, more advanced than at any other time in history. I get all of that. Guys come back a lot sooner than they did 10 years ago. I get all of that. But broken ribs is broken ribs. And to your point about the Bears' defense, the one thing we know about defense, regardless of the sport, it does what? It translates to the postseason. If don't nothing else translate to the postseason, defense does. That's number one. Number two, I watched Mitch Trubisky here in Cleveland playing for Mentor High School, the Mentor Cardinals, a local high school here in Cleveland. Now, I'm not saying that playing quarterback in high school is the same as playing quarterback in the NFL, so don't do that, people out there, if you're listening. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is you look up this guy's beginnings and where he came from and what Mentor did when he was at the helm, and I don't know just yet, but it's starting to look a little bit like he might be figuring it out. You're right. The offense is the question mark. But let that guy play well in that game in New Orleans. The Bears win. I'm telling you now, the Bears win. Because that defense, without the Saints having Kamara, I think the defense for the Bears and the offense for the Saints, even with Malcolm Thomas coming back, is still somewhat, they cancel each other out. They cancel themselves out or each other out, however you want to say that, without Kamara. Now, with Kamara, I'm saying Saints and by 7. I won't pick a score in this one, but let Trubisky play well in this game. The Bears, yeah. Even with it not being in Chicago, I'm taking the Bears ever so slightly. But by the way, what's the line on that game right now, Double J? Do you know?
I'm grabbing it for you right now.
Yeah, because I don't gamble.
I was going to ask too. I was going to ask for those listening at home. While we were talking, I was going ahead and getting together a little point sheet for us, just making sure we recap, say who picked what, so that way we can see how good we are going into the next.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we should. Yeah, I mean, not everybody's doing it, but a lot of people. I don't know why we haven't done that. Well, there's a lot of life stuff going on, but yeah, we need. I appreciate that, Gully. Yeah, we need to start doing that.
We can expose our host.
Oh, I'm already exposed.
Oh, look at this.
I'm already exposed. What are you saying?
Look at this.
I mean, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but that line opened at 7. It is in favor of the Saints, of course, and is now moved to 8.5.
What?
So that's a strange number where it sits now. So I expect some movement between now and certainly by Friday. If it can creep up to 10, you know, I would see the Sharks potentially jumping all over that. But again, I believe the public right now just has not seen enough from the Bears, knowing that if they had missed the playoffs, their coaching staff, there would be a full rebuild taking place. So yeah, it's a very interesting set of circumstances with what throughout the mind of Virginia McCaskey and what they want to do long term. But at least, you know, with that in mind, I definitely believe that that the Bears are going to surprise some people with how close the game actually is.
I do too. I mean, whatever you look like going in, we've seen cases. That's one thing about the NFL. It's unpredictable in all facets. It's just unpredictable. We've seen teams throughout the years of watching the NFL who limp into the playoffs. And then when they get there, they win a couple of games. They find, like the Jets that one year with Mark Sanchez. Well, I don't know if they limped that year into the playoffs. No, I don't think they limped. But whatever the case may be, I was surprised for them to be in the AFC Championship. And they went to the AFC Championship twice, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they? That Jets team.
His first two years,
they went
his
to
first
the
2 seasons, he went to the
AFC Championship. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean? So, when you get in the playoffs, man, you get a whole new set of ingredients is all I'm saying. You get a whole new set of ingredients. But, yeah, I'm picking the Bears. And then last but not least, in the 8:15 prime time slot, the game that everybody in the America and in some places in India will be tuning in to watch. Unfortunately, the Browns and at the Steelers. The Browns, of course, are depleted, whereas the Steelers going into this game are or will be replenished. Double J. We already know who you got, but elaborate on as to who you got.
Well, again, at full strength here, I would be going with Cleveland. I actually believe that despite them playing just a week ago, it would, the perception amongst the public was that, well, they'd be second-string team. What is being forgotten is simply put the struggles that Pittsburgh faced throughout this entire season and the reliance on Ben's arm, the disappearance of their run game, and what I would call the disappearance of their defense. They went from the number one defense throughout this, being the number one defense throughout the majority of the year, being really, really average. And, to me, I think that had a lot, to do with some of the injuries that they faced, with those folks having, they're done for the year. So, unfortunately, given the circumstances, I'm still going to go dog pound, but the odds are certainly stacked against them for sure, and it would be one for the ages if they pull this off, where there would be no more talk of the drive or any of that garbage. No,
it's going to always be that. There's folks in Cleveland who just can't get away from that no matter what, because it's part of their history and their lore, so to speak, like the folks who celebrated 0-16 for whatever reason. Yeah, bass accurate it is to me, but hey, I didn't go down there. But I'll tell you what, I'm picking the Browns to win this game from a competitive standpoint. I never played in NFL. I know you all have heard me say that countless times, ad nauseum. But regardless of the level that you play on,
and a side note, really quickly here, I do want to point out Kentucky, the Wildcats, who have been struggling, did pull out a victory at home against Jerry Stackhouse's Vanderbilt Commodores. Also, Scottie Pippen Jr., of course, was on that team and had himself quite an evening as well. So just wanted to let everyone know that went final.
It's all good. My man Stack, he'll get it together. I ain't even worried about Stack. Stack going to be back, baby. He got that Roy Williams and that North Carolina blue blood in him. But I'm picking the Browns by 3, actually. The attitude, regardless of the level, man, if you're a competitor, you have got to be saying to yourself going into this game, okay, I know what the game for us to get in against them look like. But again, in the playoffs, things can look totally different. And I know it's not the same exact scenario, but just to give you some idea, just the premise, just to give you some idea, let's go back to that year that the Giants lost to the Patriots. At the last game of the season, whatever year that was, that they met them in the Super Bowl, and what happened? Totally different outcome, totally different score, everything. But after that game, Mike Strahan was heard to have said, oh, yeah, Yeah, if we get there, we could definitely get with them. We need to clean up a few things, but we could definitely see them. Don't let us see them again. And what happened? Excuse me. At some point, your attitude got.
Right.
I'm sick and tired of this dude. I'm sick and tired of this dude. Every time I go out the house to go to school, this dude waiting on the corner because he don't go to school to take my lunch money. I'm sick and tired of that. Now, I got some Steelers fans that I'm friends with that, I work with and so on, and I'm cool with them and all of that. So this ain't personal, nothing to that effect. It ain't that serious. But I am saying I'm tired of seeing Steelers jerseys and all of that, and them bragging. Y'all ain't beat us one out of how many times since 2000? I'm sick of all of that. This Browns team got enough offensive weapons. I can't tell Stefanski how to call this game or what kind of game plan to design and so on and so forth, but I will say this. You got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. You got David Njoku, Rashard Hollywood Higgins, who, by the way, just got caught drag racing. Why, I don't know. But you got enough offensive weapons that your game plan has to be tailored to the flow of the game. Now, you do studies and stuff, or film study prior to taking the field of your opponent, all that week. But once you get out there on that field, the game has a flow contrary in most cases to what you've already pre-written or predetermined on your play sheet. So in other words, if you scripted the first 15 plays and you go up and down the field a series or two, let's say the score is 3-3 or whatever the case may be, you're saying, okay, automatically the wheels in your mind got to be turning. You know what? I was going to call play 17. But the way the game is going, I think I'm going to call plays 21 and 25. And you call plays 21 and 25, and they work. See, you got to call them according to the flow. Spread them tight ends out wide on occasion. Let them match up with them defensive backs and them safeties. Now, I know I don't trust Njoku's hands either, and I'm a Hurricane fan. But, hey, you got to roll with what you got. You got to play to win. And then you use Chubb and Hunt together. Explain to me why Stefanski has not used them two guys together. I get spelling one for the other a time or two. But, again, with the time or two, why don't you use them guys together a time or two? And then use the screen. If you watch that Jets game, the second half of how the play calling was to start the second half, what the play calling was, to start the second half is what your play calling should have been to start the game. Yes, those guys are workhorses, Hunt and Chubb. You can hand the ball off to them each 30 times.
Yeah.
But you use them in the passing game. You loosen up
barbershop. You got to remember, you got to set that kind of stuff up there. You roll it out. What are you going to do in the second half at that point?
Again, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to do it till you stop it. I remember a game when Kirk Cousins was with Washington, and I believe Joe Gibbs was on the sidelines for his second stint or third stint with Washington, and they were playing the Browns. Joe Gibbs caught a bootleg left. The Browns couldn't stop it. Go look at that game after watch for the point when Gibbs called the first bootleg, and then watch how many successive bootlegs he called thereafter. Or better yet, let's go to Bill Belichick. And I'm not comparing Stefanski to him. I'm just talking about calling the game. Have we not seen the Patriots play the Steelers and just about anybody else? And Bill had Brady. I know Brady was capable of, but I'm just saying the calls. Had Brady throw the ball 55 times in a game, and how many runs, and blew whoever out, ran him in the ground. If I'm going to make you defend the entire field. The Browns get to calling plays, and they want to take shots deep down the field. And I get it, you got to do that every now and again, but not just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, and it's not working. You got to open things up, man. You got to have a balance, a mixture of. Switch some things up, man. Stop just having 7-step drops. You put Chubb and Hunt in the passing game. Put them in screens. Because, Cam Hayward going to be back, and they love bringing pressure up the middle. Yeah. I'm dropping the screen in right behind him. That's how the teams used to slow Dwight Freeney down, who, of course, we all know is a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying, that's how you slow them down. And to your point about Ben's arm, it's suspect. They are not invincible. They still hanging on to what the Steelers are, the mystique and all of that. That's not going anywhere. And they are a championship team. I get all of that. But in this game right here, I'm not surprised at all. The Browns need to go in with that attitude. No, not today. Not today. And if you do win, believe me, you ain't going to want to play nobody else next week. I'm picking the Browns at 3. Yeah. Gully, who you got? Browns at the Steelers.
Man, sorry for the pause. That's a lot of staff. That's a lot of your team that won't be present on the field for you to be able to overcome. But what I can say is that the Browns, having seen what we've seen last week, if not the rest of the season entirely, Baker Mayfield's your quarterback. And I'm going to tell you something. Given how he's played and given the way he's been, I think, as consistent on the field as he is off the field or on the field as in the press, I believe that his leadership and I believe his will to want to overcome some of those mistakes that happened earlier in the season, they may have cost games, cost games or cost drives, combined with the fact that you do have the most talented backfield overall in the NFL with the combination of a Kareem Hunt with a Nick Chubb and an intense desire to really set themselves on the same level, if not set themselves apart from the most storied franchise in football, most storied franchise in the NFL. I'm saying a lot of metaphorical arguments to say metaphors is what's going to get it done. Shocking. Double J, if you're standing up, I need you to sit down. Brother Rich, wherever you are, I need you to make sure you're sitting. Yeah, we Cleveland natives are going with the Browns. Browns to win versus Pittsburgh. I'm picking it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have picked the Steelers anyway. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have picked the Steelers anyway. Not in this game. You know what I mean? I can't stand. I respect them. I can't stand them. You know what I'm saying? Like Larry Bird, John Elway, you know what I mean? Warren Moon, because the Oilers used to get us a time or two. Matter of fact, that happened to the Browns once. I don't want to poo-poo or rain on nobody's parade. Excuse my French fries. But I think it was 88. Was it 1988?
Yeah, it was after the
They beat the Oilers to get in
championships with the Broncos.
No. I'm talking about at the last game of the season, the Browns had to beat the Oilers to get into the playoffs, and they did, and they had to turn around.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, and they had to turn around and play the Oilers in the wild card or something or another, and then they lost to the Oilers. But that way had Warren Moon, and Warren Moon at 70 was still throwing cannons. Ben at 31.
Yeah.
That elbow. I don't trust it. And I know this. Joe Woods better bring his A game. Playing that conservative, that Steelers game shouldn't have been that close. There's 2 scores. That's why when people watch the games, the first thing that I say, how did you all watch that whole game? And the only thing you came away with is how bad Baker played in any game. I watched the whole game too, and I saw a multitude of things that could have been a whole lot better. And one thing I still see that I don't like that's more concerning to me than whatever Baker is doing or ain't doing, and that's Joe Woods and how he's calling it. If you look at Pittsburgh's 16th and 22nd point, whatever the 2 touchdowns they scored in the second half, go look at how the defense, he was played conservative. Now, I know number 34, Stewart, got toasted a couple of times, but he did have an interception. But still, the way he called it, it just I don't trust him. But somebody got to have to get in his ear this week. You know, they're going to have to definitely get in his ear. You're going to have to, and I wouldn't blitz Ben a lot either because it's hard to get him on the ground, even though his arm is jacked up. Man, I'm playing coverages. I'm mixing up my coverages on you all day, every day. And with the counter not really being a threat in the run game, that's what I'm doing. I'm mixing my coverages up. But that's what you're gonna have to beat me. You have to beat me. No self-inflicted wounds, no none of that kind of stuff. You're gonna have to beat me. You have to take it. You have to take it. And when you're done, you're gonna wish you just had to let me have a victory because you're gonna be woe out. And that's what I expect from the Browns this coming Sunday, despite not having 2/3 of the people that they need in the building. Yeah, despite not having all of that. All right, we are moving along to the second half of our program today. And the number to call, if you're up and around, you're out and about, you want to give us a shout, is 267-687-0026. Once again, the number to call is area code 267-687-0026. And as always, we are powered by the shop report, is powered by none other than the fine folks over at Rocket Digital Media. It's the one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs. Like I say, always, you can look them up on Facebook at RDM Detroit. Once again, that's at RDM Detroit. Or you can go to their website, rocketdigital.net, and you tell them the BSJ sent you. All right, fellas, moving along into our next topic for the day, and that is, of course, take your pick. Battle of the Middleweights. On one corner, or in one corner, should I say, we got my man, the marvelous Marvin Hagler. And in the blue corner, we got my man, Carlos Monxon, Double J. Take your pick, Marvin Hagler or Carlos Monxon.
Wow. The interesting thing about this, I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna let it roll off the tongue. I'm gonna go with Hagler.
Okay, that's not like it's a bad thing. No, it's not like it's a bad thing. Yeah.
Oh, with this particular segment, the amount of anxiety that you cause, because despite there really not being a wrong answer, generally speaking, we don't have to split hairs, or if anything, we have to count hairs on the dog. As Bill Rich would tell us. And
that's probably why he didn't make it today.
But, it really is about that's why unfortunately he's not here for this segment, because that's right up his alley, because that's really when you're talking about picking, making that type of choice, as we've been prone to do or forced to do, and with this particular segment of the show, you almost have to count the hairs there, because it is really that fine and that detailed when you're looking at this close of a call.
I don't disagree with you. I do not disagree with you at all. That's why in my research, it was daunting. I was like, man, I need to find a real good one for this week's Take Your Pick. And then, unbeknownst to my oldest son, he gave me the idea. And I said, oh, yeah, let me broaden my horizons a little bit here. Let me stretch things out a little bit. Let me expand my search. And I came up with these two right here, Gully. But I get you, Double J. There's no right or wrong answers here. It's just curious to know who you would pick. Gully, who you got? Marvelous Marvin Hagler or my man, Carlos Escopeta? That's Escopeta, Escopeta, as in Peter? I don't know. Carlos Monxon.
The marvelous one, man. The marvelous one. The marvelous one that can see fighters of all different styles. I still don't like what happened to him versus Sugar Ray Leonard. I can see why he walked away from the game after that. So with that being said, no disrespect to anybody in the ring. What I've seen from marvelous Marvin Hagler, and the way he boxed and what he could do and how he could take punishment and keep on going, and how he actually was a brawler's boxer, as rare of a combination as it was. Take nothing away from Carlos. I'm going with the marvelous one for sure.
That's interesting. You should say that he was a brawler's boxer because he was, but he was a straight up dude too. He didn't like no cheating, no none of that. He came at you straight. You know what I mean? And he just felt like that's why he walked away from it because he felt like the politics, or whatever the case may be, which we all know is the case in boxing, was a bunch of bull. You know what I mean? His thing was beat me head up, and I'll tip my hat to you, and I ain't mad at him for that. In this case, I too am going to pick Marvin Hagler. But let me give you the rundown. Let me give you a little bit of in-depth on both fighters and why, in part, I picked these two for this week's Take Your Pick. Would you all like me to discuss or give you the rundown on Hagler first or Carlos Monxon? Don't matter? Okay. I'll give you the rundown.
I think Monzon first because Monzon is the one we
kind of like the unknown.
Fewer people would know. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just wrote a few tidbits. His record: 87-3-9.
Yep.
59 were knockouts, and only in his 3 losses he was never knocked out, knocked down, no none of that. However, he did have a troubled past, and if you look him up, you will see that his violent nature, as they were calling it, is what led to his passing. Having a troubled past is a sad case, I would like to say, of a guy who couldn't turn it off when it was supposed to be turned off. Very, very violent outside of the ring. And again, you got to look his story up to just see how unreal his story ended, if you would. But he successfully defended his title 14 times against 11 different fighters. Is that impressive to either one of you all? Or no? Or is that par for the course?
No, you're talking about a champion. You're talking about a champion 14 times against 11 different fighters. So that means he was clearly a guy who, to your point about his character, he didn't care who it was. Next man, next one up.
Exactly.
He was an equal opportunity, you know what?
Yeah, fighter. Exactly.
Well, but but part of that is what maybe can give his perception for, under the circumstances of this type of question, can actually be one of the deciding factors. Well, part of my own personal critiques with all of this, actually, that wasn't one of them. He was kind of a victim of circumstance where,
somewhat,
you can say that he beat, someone like Griffith twice.
Mm-hmm.
So he was, despite having that, but you look at the other fight, the Valdez fight, well, the first one, where his brother had passed away beforehand, and he really, if it wasn't under contract, he would have pulled out of it. I would argue in today's world that fight wouldn't have happened. And,
absolutely not.
Of course, it
yeah,
led to a second
not.
one, which was a brawl. But if you guys have, of course, YouTube, definitely check it out. But just that personality and character trait, in the paired with the fact that he lacks, unlike most of the fighters that go down for the record books like this, he lacks that true quality of win, against the timeless opponent. So that's just to kind of piggyback on that point you made there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that said that about him too. But there were a few people, older heads that I talked to, that really saw him in the early in his career or whatever. They said he was, an Argentine dynamo. He was nothing to play with. But then on Marvin Hagler's side, and here's why I got to roll with Hagler, and I can't be mad at y'all for rolling with Hagler. Hagler has 62 fights, 52 by knockout, 3 losses like Monzon. No, he was never knocked out, and 2 draws. But here's the thing about Hagler, 2 things that kind of jumped out the page at me. He holds the highest knockout percentage of all undisputed middleweight champions at 78%. still to this day. And is the third longest unified championship reign in boxing history at 12 title defenses. What you going to do about that? What can you do? What can you say about that? Anybody? He holds the highest knockout percentage of all undisputed middleweight champions to this day. And I'm glad I got a chance to see him because he was no joke. Them fights with Sugar Ray and Thomas Hearns, and didn't he fight Duran too once? Gully?
I believe he did. I'm looking at that right now. I believe he did. Let's see. I'm going to find out. I'll get back to you in just one moment.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, while he's looking that up, it was interesting because part of me almost believed for a moment that Monxon had ducked Hagler just because of, again, there was that small gap in time. We're talking a couple of years.
Right.
From the time that Hagler really rose into the ranks there, of course, right along the same time with Monzon's retirement too. So, I ultimately I was able to kind of put that to rest. Just in theory, it could have happened, but you generally weren't. It would have been a reach if he would have pulled that far down.
I think so too.
At that point in time.
Yeah. I mean, but they both were, in terms of boxing, two of the best in the sport for as long as the sport been recorded.
Yes, in fact, November 10th, 1983, it was a unanimous decision win by Marvin Hagler, marvelous Marvin Hagler, over Roberto Duran. And did you know that his name is actually Marvelous Marvin Hagler? Like, he changed his name.
I know, yeah.
Dispute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's his real name, Marvelous. But but like you said, change it because it didn't start. What'd you say? What'd you say, Gully?
Yeah, no, I actually messed it up. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, he changed his name, but that wasn't always the case in the beginning, his name being Marvelous, but he changed his name to that, and he had every right to because Marvelous he was. Most of them guys that had nicknames back then in the mid-'80s, early '90s that was on the fight scene, where you could understand why they had the nicknames that they did, because they was just that good with it. And Hagler was definitely one of them. He was definitely one of them dudes. One of my favorites, too, by the way. One of my all-time favorites. But, fellas, I appreciate y'all as always. So, go ahead. Double J, you going to say something?
Well, just briefly, when we were kind of picking this here, we looked at it from just, obviously, the body of work. And but something I think we may have missed would be what really generally comes to mind, which is you put them both in their prime. Who do you have? Especially with this example, I want to hear from you guys because, of course, their fighting styles were pretty much, contradictions of one another.
Right.
So
one was southpaw, one was orthodox,
said,
I think. What were you going to say? You said, with that being said?
No, I was just going to say because of that, who would you go with and beyond just that pick itself, or would it stay the same?
Oh, my gosh. I'd be all day trying to decide. Monxon was no joke. He was no joke, man. He was no joke. And I would for all the folks out there who might be tuning in right now, if you're a boxing fan or a casual boxing fan, you should look up the story of Carlos Monxon. It's a tale to be told. It really, really is. He was very, very violent, according to those who knew him and were around him. His marriages, they ended violently. When I started doing, I knew who he was as a fighter because I follow boxing, but when I really started digging to find, stuff I wanted to mention on him, a lot of stuff I was just, no, I better not. I might not want to say this or say that or whatnot. You have to check it out. If you don't know his whole story, you should check out his whole story. it's a tough one. But as far as, like I said, in the ring or not, the dude he's one heck of a fighter. It would be hard for me to pick. And you talking about prime for prime, it would be hard. It would be tough. I'd be all day. I think if you gave me the option to answer that versus could I pass it on to, like somebody else on the panel, I would pass in a heartbeat because I couldn't pick it. You know what I mean? But as always, fella, good stuff.
Well,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll leave it at this. It would have gone to a decision for me. The decision would have been taken out of my hand. There's just
or a draw.
As close as a what if there ever was.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you, not at all. And on that note, it's been fun, but we got to run. We appreciate y'all for listening. Don't forget to check us out right here on Spreaker.com. Or you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and give us a follow. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can hop on over to the shop's Facebook fan page. I don't know, we're having some problems with it here lately. I can't share stuff I've posted or whatnot to my main page. But anyway, we can get that all settled and worked out. But you can hop on over to our Facebook fan page and take a look-see and let us know what you think. And if that don't work, Google it for my mans, Be Rich, Double J, D Gully, and all those who follow and support us. We say thank you. I'm Barbershop Jay, and you've been listening to the Shop Report. And remember, the next time y'all want to know what's really going on, man, come to the shop. Walk-ins are always welcome. Holla.